Chafing Armor Podcast, Episode 15. Sing, Dance, Die. Welcome back to the Chafing Armor Podcast, the only podcast starring me, Michael Corley, your friendly neighborhood dungeon master. And in a special solo episode today, we have James. James, tell me the name of one of your real-life goats.
One of my real-life goats.
Yes.
One of my real-life goats' name is Grady, who was about 4.5 feet tall at the head.
Unbelievable.
He's
and
ginormous.
tell me one wacky thing about Grady.
Grady is a big baby. He whines and cries whenever he doesn't want to do something, and he likes to rub his head on people.
And if you don't believe us, in the show notes for this episode, I will put a link to James so you can find out more about his goats. But since we're not talking about goats today, tell us who you will be playing today.
I am playing my favorite character, Penton Chalice, who is a spell scale sorcerer.
Excellent. Now, when we last left our adventurers, they went on a perilous journey, but there was one who was not with them, and it was none other than Penton. All we had heard was that he had gone to meditate after his encounter with the brass dragon. Such a profound impact it had that he went into a deep meditation out on a hill. And he thinks back and back to 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, Penton, you are walking along the King's Road. You are walking along, and you have but one companion. Penton, would you tell us the name of your familiar?
My familiar's name is Afiel, who is a raven.
Yes, and your raven, do you imagine it is on your shoulder, or how would you imagine your raven is situated with you?
Oh, the raven would be wherever it feels like, but usually on a shoulder because it's a good vantage point. Sometimes she sits on my head. Sometimes she sits on the end of my, quarterstaff, whatever she feels like.
Absolutely. And you walk penniless along the King's Road when you encounter 3 ruffians. And you know the type. You've seen them in so many different bars and inns, and yes, on King's Roads. They are all 3 human. One of them is clearly the leader, a balding man with a paunch of a belly and a thick cudgel in his hand. The 2 behind him are either related to him or simply ruffians from the outskirts of the kingdom of Beltrain, where you are now walking upon the King's Road. And they are waiting for your approach. And the large, hefty man, who even though he has run to fat, is still quite big and beefy, says, "Ho, stranger."
Ho yourself. How are you this fine day?
I am doing fantastic, and it is quite remarkable to see. I must confess, I'm not entirely certain. Are you what they call a spell scale?
Well, you're very informed, sir. Yes, I am.
He turns and nods to his 2 companions, who nod energetically. I have been told that a spell scale is a rare and wondrous, if you don't mind me saying, creature.
Well, in the generic sense, creature, sure. I do feel that I am rare and wondrous, but and thank you for noticing. I very much appreciate that.
And as he says that, your raven lets out a single caw, but it is not intelligible. You do sense empathically danger warnings from your raven, but I don't think you needed your raven to tell you that.
Not at all.
The larger, paunchy ruffian smacks his cudgel a few times into his left palm, and he says, "Now, As it is the king's road, it is my solemn duty to collect the king's taxes. So if you have any gold, and we will also accept multiple pieces of silver or a great many copper, we will take those off your nestable hands and let you on your way.
Well, good sir, I appreciate your efforts for the king, but as you can see, I am not very well off, and as a matter of fact, I have no coin to speak of at all.
Oh, now, sir, one such as you, a spell scale sorcerer, surely has made good use of himself on the road. I simply do not believe that you have nothing. And he
Well,
takes one step towards you.
well, I can certainly see what I have on me, and I pat around on my robe, as it were, and discover there's no pockets whatsoever in it. And it's just a belted, basically overly long tunic.
Okay.
If I have any coins on me, sir, I'm not quite sure where I'd be able to keep them. They don't fit in places that I wouldn't want them, if you know what I mean.
He turns to the other two and he says, he needs his mouth to cast the spells, but he doesn't need teeth. I would like you to do two things. I
Hmm.
would like you to first roll a perception check, and I would also like you to roll a initiative.
Okay. Is perceptions based on wisdom?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, my perception, I rolled a 19 for, plus my 2, if that matters.
It does absolutely matter because when you get over 20, even if it is a non-natural 20, I always take that into consideration. So it is clear to you what is about to happen. You knew it from the moment you were walking up, but there was no point in turning and fleeing back down the road. But because of your perception and because you've been keeping watch, and also because of the subtle empathic messages that you're receiving from Afiel, your crow companion, I'm sorry, raven companion, the two younger men have been attempting to subtly shift and flank you, but they are unable to do so at this time because you are ready for them. Also, because of your very high perception, you also hear something behind you on the road,
Hmm.
but it's far enough away that you're almost certain it's not an immediate threat. But it's the only thing you hear for certain is a distant tinkle of a bell.
Hmm.
But it's far enough away that it's not an immediate concern. What is an immediate concern are these three ruffians.
Right.
And what was your initiative roll?
That would be a 13.
13. All right.
Oh, nay, 15 with my plus 2. Apologize.
15. Well, as you know, the DM in Chafing Armor has been doing a fantastically terrible job of rolling, but not today. Not today, because I rolled a 19,
Oh, just my luck.
and an 18 for these ruffians. So the first one to attack is the one on the right. Now he has what is simply it's not even quite a quarterstaff. It's just it's a thick stick,
Okay.
is what it is. The one on the left, he actually has a short length of chain. It looks like something that was originally used perhaps to link up an ox. It is an extremely inelegant weapon, but you certainly don't think you want it to hit you. And of course, you know that the paunchy fellow and the front, he has a cudgel that is specifically meant for thwacking people on the head.
Right.
And first up is the gentleman on the right with a stick. And he rolls a 14. Now, what is Penton's armor class?
It is currently 17.
Gotcha. And by the way, I do want you to use your level 3 stats.
Okay.
One for simplicity, but also because of reasons I will explain later.
Alrighty.
So I do want you to use your level 3 stats. And I apologize, I interrupted myself. What did you say your armor class was?
17.
17. And just very briefly, tell the listening audience, in addition to your dexterity, why would a berobed spell skill sorcerer have such a high armor class?
Well, mostly it's because of my vow of poverty. It's benefited me in a few different ways, one of which is an AC bonus. Of course, there's also my Dex bonus as well.
Absolutely. And I did want to reiterate that because it might seem a little odd that as they say, squishy sorcerer has such a high AC, but your life of poverty has done many things for you. One, it simply toughened you up. You've slept in rough places, you've lived out in the elements, and you've simply learned to do without armor and weapons, and it has benefited you. And so this young fellow, I'm going to say, makes a completely inexpert swing, and this is simply you just stepping back. You just take a half step back, and nothing happens. The other gentleman who was trying to flank you, but a field gave out a and did not allow it to happen, and he rolls a 5. So that same, they both essentially were trying to flank you, both trying to swing at the same time. He comes within a hair's breadth of hitting himself in the face with this chain. He doesn't because he didn't roll a 1. But you actually, like in the back of your mind, your processing combat mind, you wonder if he's ever actually used this in combat, like even once, or if this was just something he picked up before walking out on the road.
Right.
But finally, the older man who looks a little more skilled, you wonder if perhaps he, in his day, was a soldier for the king or for another barony. He clearly has a little bit more of a handle of himself. He's wearing something that might technically be leather armor, but only in the most vague sense. And unfortunately, probably because of his skill, he rolls an 18. Which he also, with his bonus, that is going to hit. And with his cudgel, fortunately, he rolled a 1, and with his damage bonus, that is going to do 3 points
Ooch.
of damage, which we know with Penton. Tell everyone what your total level 3 hit points are.
I'm at a whopping 9 hit points.
Yes.
That's a semi okay start for a fighter at first level.
Exactly. So that hurt, and it actually makes a lot of sense that this particular gentleman was the one who landed the blow. The other two, they clearly don't know what they're doing at all, and you doubt they would be out here today if it were not for the influence of this balding, paunchy man with the cudgel. But it is also your turn. What
Right.
would you like to do?
Well, let's see. Yeah, we would consider these gents to be hostile at this point, correct? Since they are
Most
actually
certainly,
attacking me.
they
Um,
are.
I am going to try something here. Because these guys are just trying to get by. They're, probably having a rough life and just trying to make a few coins. So I'd really not have to want to kill any of them if I don't have to. What I'd like to do is activate my Nimbus of Light, so I'll glow a bit, and then basically I'm going to go with bluff on this one, and see if I can't talk. Well, actually, that's incorrect. I'd like you to try diplomacy first and see if I can affect their mood, and see if we can't end this a little more peacefully, or at least non-violently. So let's see. At a hostile, I would need to roll a 20 to turn them unfriendly, or a 25 to make them indifferent. And that's with my bonus, which is currently 12. I have a 12 diplomacy of all things. So if you'd allow me, I could roll for that.
Please do.
I will. Oh, sir, that is a 20.
A natural 20?
A natural 20 plus the 12, which would make it 32, which is short of friendly. Dang, short of friendly.
So, what I would like, normally I describe these things. Oh, please,
Right.
good.
Right. I was gonna add some words to that, of course.
Please.
Let's see. Gentlemen, I'd rather not have to destroy you. I'm just trying to have a nice walk down the road, and let's just all part ways and just be happy. What do you think?
So this is what happens. You step forward and you say, "Gentle, I'm just trying to walk down the road." But as you're doing so, you have a staff, is it? A
Yes.
quarterstaff? Yes. And you just very casually just tap it once into the ground. But this is what they see. The leader comes forward and he strikes you, and your face just very casually turns back. And as it turns back, it is as if a spotlight comes up behind you and a chorus of angels sing behind you. And on cue, A field goes, "Roar!" And both of the young gentlemen literally drop their weapons. Like they fall to the ground with a clank. And the older man takes a step back and he says, I think that your dues have been paid. And Billy, Sax, I think it's time to go. And they turn and they run. They just run. And now you hear a sound from behind you.
Ah, the
You
bell.
hear yes, this clearly is related to that. As you're turning around, you're hearing a sound, and it is the classic slow clap. And as you turn around, your aura slowly fading as you begin to cancel out, but it's still there as you turn around. You see an enormous troupe. You see an enormous troupe of performers. Imagine everything you've ever thought of, sort of a weird combination of a circus, an acrobats, and gypsies, all in one. And what you're seeing here is the vanguard, and it on a banner that is up ahead, though there's nobody here but you to see it. It says Archibald's Flying Circus, and a very thin half elf. He seems like he is made like it almost seems like he has no bones. He's so lithe as he walks up to you. He is completely bald, but he has a little tiny goatee. This half elf comes up to you and bows, and he says, "Sir, might I have the pleasure of you knowing your name?"
Well, of course. My name is Penton, and who might you be, sir?
Ah, Penton, a fine name for a fine young lad. Penton, my name is Archibald, and I am the proprietor of these fine performers. We are on our way, as we speak, to visit the kingdom of Beltrain. We have been invited by the king himself to come and perform for him. I was wondering, have you ever done any performing, lad?
Oh, a little bit here and there, but nothing professional like you gents and ladies.
Well, I just watched a lone man with nothing but a stick and a bird turn away 3 ruffians who were ready to smack you with their shillelagh. Speaking of which, and he snaps his fingers a few times and he says, "Kanga! Kanga!" And a ancient elf comes hobbling out towards you, and she looks you over and she reaches up and touches the side of your face. You realize that you are beginning to form a rather delightful bruise on the side of your cheek where the cudgel hits you, because 3 points of damage is roughly a third of your life force.
Right.
And she says, "Would you like me to treat this, young sir?"
Oh, madam, I would be honored.
Ah, and she reaches into one of her just innumerable pouches and pulls out the most disgusting smelling ointment you can imagine. And she smears it over your face. And it's just horrible. And your bird, Afield, just immediately and flies away. Cannot stand the smell. But you immediately gain 1 hit point back.
Ah.
And already you can feel the pain beginning to lessen as it seeps into your skin. And Archibald says, "Good sir, I was wondering, would you travel with us for a while, and perhaps we might discuss an arrangement?"
An arrangement. Well, I would certainly love to travel with you, as we are going the same direction anyway, and I might even learn a thing or two from you.
Oh, now there's a clever lad. One who's always ready to learn is one who can always get a wee bit smarter. And now we'll do a quick montage as you walk forward. You were still several days' walk from the kingdom of Beltrain, and you learn more about this circus. It's a very interesting circus. What you find is that there's a core group of performers, and they are Each and every one of these is both an actor and an acrobat. And some of them have specific skills, like Kanga, the elf witch woman, obviously is not an acrobat any longer.
Right.
And she has skills that are useful to the entire group. But there is a core of about a dozen that think Cirque du Soleil.
Right.
And they are very well thought of throughout the realm, at least to hear them tell it. You think you vaguely heard of them before, but you're not. You certainly have never seen them perform. But the interesting thing, and this is what Archibald wants to talk to you about, is they kind of have sideshows. Now, not freaks when I say sideshows, but they have other forms of entertainment. And so what they do is they bring the sideshows on. They do a little performance to kind of whet the appetite. Then the main performance comes on. Then they take a break where the side performance comes on. Then the main performance again, and then a sideshow to kind of close things out.
I see.
And that is what they want to discuss with you, is if you would be interested in performing for the troupe.
Well, that sounds very interesting. And, I would ask for no payment other than just the politeness of your company and maybe a little bit of a meal here and there. That's about it.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can work something out like that. And he smiles, and you had seen like a half a shoulder before then, because it's kind of hard not to, but you see this just rumbling, and a honest to goodness ogre comes from the back of the troop, and
Oh my goodness.
the ogre looks down at you and kind of a couple of times, and it says, "What do you like to eat?"
Well, anything at all would be just fine. I tend toward, vegetables, but I don't mind meat every now and then as well. I mean, I'm sure you're wonderful. Oh, boy.
You like fish? I got fish.
Fish is lovely. I've never been able to fish in my life, but I do enjoy it, eating it.
Name's Mun.
Mun. Pleasure. Very much a pleasure. I can't say
And
I've
he's
ever met an ogre before. This is quite the day.
I can't say I've ever met a sparkly man before.
Well, we all win. Everyone wins.
And actually, you find out Mun is actually a woman. Ogres are not terribly gendered.
Right. I
But
refrained from using a prefix
yes, that
just
keeps you
in
out of a
case.
lot. That keeps you out of a lot of problems. And you slowly get to know these people over the days. You find out that there, of course, is Kanga, the elf witch. You find out that there is one of the other performers. There are several sideshows besides you. There is an illusionist who performs very specific illusions. And that is actually a half dwarf, something you've never met before. A half dwarf who specializes in disguises, puts on a kind of a funny show where he turns into different characters throughout the show. And you also meet a monk, something else that you've never seen before, named Taka. And Taka seems to be not quite human, but certainly you don't have any prejudices
Right.
as far as that go.
We've all been
But
there.
yeah, we've all been there. But there's something vaguely monkey-like of Taka, but you're not quite sure what the deal is. And obviously, it would be
Imprudent.
a bit of a breach. Yeah, imprudent to go, "Hey, are you part monkey or something?" So you get to know these people as you go on. And the day finally comes where you're approaching the outskirts of the proper castle and outer kingdom of Beltrain. And as you make your way in, that's when Archibald he essentially says the Pulp Fiction, let's get into character. And everybody kind of puts on their best clothes, and they kind of start to strut a little bit more, and the banner is held up super high, and some musicians start to play music, and little children start running out around y'all. Are you going to do any kind of prestidigitation or anything to help herald in this arrival?
Yes. I will activate a prestidigitation cantrip,
Mm-hmm.
and colored lights will float around the main train of the as they enter in.
Excellent. Well, the half elf Archibald, he gives you like a nod, like, he has some good stuff. I like that. And Taka the monk is doing some minor demonstrations, like doing some flips and such. And of course, the teams themselves are doing a few tumbling demonstrations, and your lights just help accentuate everything. And the music swells as you come up to the kingdom, and after a very brief meeting with the town guards, they are expected, and so they are allowed inside. And what you find out is that there is a great celebration. It is twofold. One, the kingdom has rediscovered the location of the staff. And this is the staff that you are very aware of through history, that 5,000 years ago stopped the evil god Set from creating a portal where he split apart two mountains and was going to open literally the dimensions, the planes of darkness, to let in the creatures from that plane. And this staff had let those creatures, stopped Set from doing so. And even though it had been carefully guarded through wars and everything you can imagine over 5,000 years, it was lost. And it has been found again, and the kingdom is about to go send their best knights and adventurers out to retrieve it. And also, it's the princess's birthday.
Oh.
She has just turned 13 years old, and she's already turned 13, but they're having an official celebration a few weeks afterwards, because, of course, in a medieval type setting, things can't happen instantly. And so, among many other things, Archibald's Flying Circus has been summoned to come and perform. And so you will have the honor of performing for the royal court, including the 13-year-old Princess Alviana.
Fantastic.
So the day of the performance comes. Y'all are quartered, and you're housed, and you're fed, and it's all quite glorious. And the next day, it's coming up to the point of your performance. Now, I have a question for you before you begin.
Yes.
Real quick. What kind of performance do you think that Penton would do?
I'm going to say that most likely it would be magically enhanced storytelling.
Excellent. That's a perfect interstitial. And when he hears that, he says that he wants to use you not at the beginning, because for the beginning they want something kind of flashy.
Sure.
But they want to use you in the middle, and they'd like you to tell a very gripping tale, something that the apparently the princess really enjoys adventures, so something very adventurous. And then they will come back in for the second act of their performance. But before they do so, Archibald is going around to everyone, and he is one by one going out and holding out the biggest gold coin you've ever seen. And I mean, it looks like you could kill a man with this gold coin.
Wow.
And you would just, doing rough calculation in your head, you would say it's probably worth at least 5 gold coins, if not more, which is an enormous amount of money. Certainly more than you've ever seen at once in your life. And he's handing it to each person, and he's saying, I'm paying you advance because I want the very best. If we nail it today, we're all going to be called upon from nation to nation, from capital to capital. There won't be a city in the entire continent that won't want to have Archibald's Flying Circus. And he comes to you to hand you your gold coin.
Well, thank you, sir. I will definitely put this to good use.
Excellent.
Thinking in the back of my head, well, I'll be breaking this into smaller coins and distributing it later.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you take that. It is very, very heavy. And you all go out to the performance. The opening act is just incredible. The illusionist comes out and turns into various things, including the princess, which she is delighted by, and a few of the court makes them a little uneasy because they're thinking, oh, wonder if he would replace the princess or something. It's kind of like a little
awkward.
But yeah, a little awkward. Maybe not the best choice, but it all still goes very well, because as soon as he's done, the acrobats come in, and they are telling a story but they're also doing these acrobatics that are just simply phenomenal. And they've got extra rigging and stuff set up to help them do so. Um, and the time comes for your performance. And I need you to roll something for me.
Okay.
I need you to roll a save versus spell, or trying to remember if that's the correct term.
Let's see. Well, let's see. Fortitude, reflex, and will saves. Spell
Fortitude, reflex, and will. So I guess this would be a will save.
Okay, I can give that a shot. Let's see what happens. Let me make sure my bird still isn't because. Oh yes, my raven and I kind of share things,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the bonuses is that we take the better of our saving throws between the two of us.
Excellent.
And his bonus is a 5, whereas mine's just a 2. So that's a helper.
Excellent. Well, then I would like you to roll that.
Let's see. That gives me an 11, so 16.
16. Okay. So you go out to perform, and there is a terrifying moment when you open your mouth to speak and nothing happens. And I don't just mean that like you momentarily lose your voice, that your body is no longer your own, that you are frozen like a statue. But what I'm going to say is that because you share your resistance with Aphiel, what happens is you feel a burning sensation as this coin begins to burn in one of your pockets. And Aphiel goes "Rah!" and goes down and grabs the coin with her beak and flings it away from you. By the way, it burns her mouth. She takes 1 point of damage, and she bears that scar on her beak to this day as she casts away the coin. And I'd like you to roll a perception check.
Okay. 13.
13. You don't get a full view of what's because this was very upsetting that suddenly your body was not your own and that your
Yes.
bird and you certainly having an empathic link with Aphiel, you do feel her pain as she grabs this by her beak and flings it away. But what you do see out of the corner of your eye that several other performers, particularly the secondary acts, are all frozen in place and they cannot move. And it's very clear what's happening to them is what happened to you. Except, as far as you can tell, none of them were able to resist. And I want to set this stage a little bit. You're in a great open area, sort of courtyard with a long stair going up to the castle proper.
Okay.
In the area before the stairs is a temporary seating area has been constructed so the princess and other important royals can sit and watch the performance. So they are raised up above you.
Okay.
And the princess is up there. The king is actually not. He's actually not present. That's not super surprising. I mean, it's a little odd, but he does have kingly stuff to do. But the queen is there and several very important royals. Of course, there's also the royal guard is there. But they are all up in this raised area. And Archibald and his team go into action. Now, they do get to act first. You absolutely do not get initiative at this moment.
All right. That's
Because you were recovering from what just happened to you.
right. Plus surprise. Yes.
Exactly. Fortunately, no one was trying to attack you because they all assumed you'd be frozen. But Archibald and his team, like insane monkeys, are swinging off their various accoutrements, landing on the display. And the ones who are not, who were like, hefting them up below, are now flinging out long chains that you think were hidden in like belts, but these long chains are wrapping around the pikes and halberds of the guards below, and they are pulling them out of their arms. And they are all moving to attack, and you see at least one guard near the princess being just stabbed right through the throat by a knife that seems to have come out of a woman's headscarf. But now you are able to act. What are you going to do?
Okay. I gather there's some initiative involved at this
Yes, I would like you to roll for initiative. That's what I should have said.
point. Right. That would be modified 14.
14. Okay. Now, keeping in with the session tonight, I rolled a natural 20.
Oh, lucky me again.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm doing very well tonight. Not so good for you. So what happens is you see the first group of the uh, acrobats land above, and two of the three who have first landed, including Archibald, attack, and one of them has slain outright another of the guards. So that leaves three guards above. Down below, and doop, two of them, all of the guards below, their primary, their halberd has been pulled out of their hands. They were all completely surprised by this attack. But of course, these are royal guards. They have swords, they have daggers, they have all kinds of things, and they're
Sure.
fully armed in plate armor. And they are pulling out their swords, but all of them have been disarmed with their primary weapon. And now it is your turn, because again, everyone's ignoring you because they think you're frozen.
Right. How many of these attackers are there?
There are a total, which you see in the actual troop attacking the acrobats. You see 6 acrobats. There are 3 who are up above, including Archibald, and there are 3 below who are assisting them up and who are disarming the guards
Okay.
below. But that does not include potential others such as Kenga and Mun the ogre.
Okay. And who are also, I take it, are they're not in view at this point, those two?
They're not directly in front of you. You would have to look around. I mean, obviously Mun would not be terribly hard to find, but
Right.
you would need to look around and try to find them. Whereas the 3 above are the immediate threats to the princess and the royalty.
Right. Well, my first and foremost is going to have to be the concept of taking out the leader. So if Archibald is within view, I will be using one of my enhanced magic missiles at him.
Excellent. And once again, because I love to explain these things to the audience, tell everyone why your missiles are enhanced.
Well, because part of the spell scales process is being able to commune with their dragony deities by meditating. And one of the gods that he meditates about is Bahamut, the king of the dragons, good dragons, who, as part of the meditation, 3 times a day adds 2d6 of damage to a spell effect. In this case, magic missile, which is my main at this level of work. Is my main spell attack. So that will be the D4 plus 1 plus any
Uh,
bonus
and and the
plus
bonus
the
that I
bonus to
do want you
that.
to also include is, of course, when you were
Oh
touched
yes. Oh
by the
yes.
great brass dragon, gives you a permanent +1 to all attacks that have to do with your dragon medications, or if it's a success roll, gives you a +1 to succeed, which of course you
Right.
don't need with magic missiles because it automatically succeeds. So go ahead and roll that
Okay.
damage.
Actually, there's one thing I realized I need to check is that I'm wondering if I have another magic missile. So let me first. Ah, yes. So third level, I get a second missile. Okay, that's what I was going to be sure about. All right. So that is set. So that'll be 2d4
Hmm.
plus 2 plus the 2d6. So this will be a whopper. He's going to feel that. All right. And luckily, unless he's got any kind of spell resistance, there's going to be no save or anything after that.
He does not.
All right. So that is 4, 5, 6 points from the missiles themselves. And 7 more. So 11 points total.
11 points total, and does that include the +1?
Oh, sorry. 12 points total.
12 points. Okay.
By the grace of Brahm,
Um,
12 points.
So, as we have seen before, when you use your magic missile after meditating on Bahamut, you actually see the after effects of a dragon roar, and some here can actually hear it as it flies towards Archibald. We can see that his dagger is raised over the princess, and he is just struck from behind by these, and they burn into his back. His light leather armor is useless against this pure arcane attack, and his head whips around and just you see bloody murder in his eyes as he
Goody,
sees you.
goody.
And at that moment, you see someone else flip into view. This person, though y'all had not discussed it, had also taken a vow of poverty, though for reasons other than yours, and that was Taka the monk.
Huh.
And Taka the monk refused outright the gold coin. And you see one of the um, extra people from below fall before Taka's quarterstaff as he thwacks them on the head. He flips forward, and I mean flips forward. He takes one look at you, narrows his eyes, and he does something odd. He places his hand upon your chest, and then he goes, "Boom," and you fly upwards. And it's not a pleasant sensation, and Afiel just squawks away as this happens, and you fly upwards. But some part of you recognized that this was not an attack, and so you did not try to offend against it, though you were just utterly mystified. And if you had the time to discuss with Taka, you might have discussed chi and the displacement of energy and stored potential kinetic energy. But all you know is that you're flying upwards, and that you very inelegantly, but we'll roll for that, land on the platform where Archibald and the other two are. So if you don't mind, roll a dexterity check for me.
Yeah, okay. Let's see if I fall flat on my face. Oh, thank goodness. It's a modified 19.
Excellent. So even though you're a little unsteady, you bring your staff down and kind of boom and land and steady yourself. And so it almost looks like you meant to do it. Now, you might think to yourself, why did this incredibly capable monk throw me, the sorcerer, up
to
here?
the fray?
Because it's kind of their bag to do this. But out of the corner of your eye below, you actually see the reason why. And that is Taka is turning away from you to face the incredibly enraged ogre.
Oh boy.
So he has sent you up here to fight them, but has also sent you away from near certain death. And with his tiny quarterstaff, you see him beginning to face off with this rampaging ogre who is coming towards him with a, and you think you see at least one fish in his tiny in his hand as he's coming forward to crush the life out of Taka. And now I'm going to have a new initiative roll because everybody is kind of like, what just happened? So we're gonna have a new initiative roll, and go ahead and roll that for me.
All right. That would be an 11.
Your luck is finally turning.
Yay.
Congratulations, because the three assailants, by the way, besides Archibald, are both elf women. Both of them have long, dark hair, and they have both pulled out twin daggers from their hair, which they are attacking with. And none of them did really well. I think they were a little shaken by the sudden arrival of a Spellscale sorcerer in their midst, because they all collectively rolled a 3, a 4, and a 7. So you will get to act first.
Okay. All right. So that he sent me right basically into the middle, near the princess and Archibald and these two oncoming elf women. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I will for the purposes of story, I will let you tell me where you landed in relation to everyone.
Let's see. Archibald was right on top of the princess with a knife. So I'm going to
Yes.
say I will have landed right in front of her in a way that's like, basically bowing to her in a sense, like, the superhero landing, if you will.
Yes.
And, stand straight, nod to the princess, sternly. I mean, in a way that, acknowledges her without, getting too flowery because it's a bad situation. And turning to Archibald And I've got to say something. I know. This ends now, and I'm going to fire another pair of magic missiles, hopefully right into his face. But we can't get too particular about these things. Um, so let's do that. It's 7, 8, 9 from the missiles, plus 1 from the grace of the brass dragon. So that's 10 plus the 2d6. That is 8 more, so 18 total.
Okay. Okay, I had to make a separate roll here. The woman on the left, who you've literally never heard speak one word, she was a silent slip of a elf woman, but incredibly graceful, jumps in front and takes these magic missiles, and it ends her life. They bury right into her chest, and just your arcane knowledge combined with your general knowledge of physiology, you know that one of those magic missiles pierced her heart and just stopped it dead. And she falls in a heap in front of Archibald, who is totally shocked by this, but does not stop. And the second woman is coming towards you with her twin knives, and she is attacking. She got a 1.
Oh, excellent.
So it's back to old school dungeon master.
You had your
rolling.
time in the sun, and now it's time to
That's
move on.
right. That's right. So I always when I roll that, I always have to roll also my. Oh, that's just a 19. Okay, so she just misses. I always roll percentage dice when a critical fail during combat, and you want to roll low. Let me just tell you that you want to roll low. And she did roll low, so she just simply misses. And Archibald, who is of course furious with you, he has one long knife that he is trying to bury into your chest, and he fails. So tell me, Penton, how did you deflect this knife coming at you? You are in between him and the princess. How did you block this knife?
That's a good question. Let's say considering most of my bonus is based on sort of a beatific source, I'm going to say that the knife came down and sort of there was a flash, and the aura of safety around me that's been blessed upon me deflected it on its own. I didn't need to move a finger.
Gotcha. There's a moment where you're like, I am not going to let anything happen to the princess. You step between, and literally just the aura of magic around you deflects this blow. You weren't quite sure if that was going to work or not, but it did. It did. And now it is your turn. By the way, the 3 remaining guards were going to act, but they are knocked off their feet because the entire structure shudders. And you don't need to look down. You actually can't look down from where you are right now easily. But you know that the ogre has either hit the structure or has been knocked into the structure. It is not collapsed, but it is shaken badly.
Well, I'm hoping for the latter.
Yes, hopefully so. Hopefully so. But it is now your turn. There is the remaining elf woman and Archibald.
All right. I'm gonna say something this time, and I'm gonna bluff my way out of this and see what happens. All right. So I'm gonna stand my ground in front of the princess, address Archibald, and say, "I have no end to this power. You will stop now and drop your weapons."
Okay.
And see if I can bluff him into trying to believe that I can just shoot off these magic missiles all day, every day until they're all just dust.
Okay.
All right, so let me roll bluff here. That's an 18 plus so a 28, a modified 28.
So I'm going to. Okay. Yeah. What I'm assuming you're doing is you have perhaps activated a slight cantrip, and you have actually caused your fingertips to start to glow as if you could fire another magic missile, and you're like raising up your hand, and he quails backwards, and he turns and runs to the edge of the structure and leaps off, and out of his back come wings.
What?
Come wings, big, feathery wings come out, and he begins to fly away. And you wonder if Archibald's flying circus was entirely, a metaphor, as you originally assumed. The second elf woman is stunned by this. You can't tell if she's stunned that he left her or if she literally did not know he could do that. But she nevertheless tries to attack you as well, and she gets a 10. And even with her bonus, that is not going to go past 17.
Right.
Perhaps she's still somewhat shaken by that, and her twin knives simply fail as she's just shaken that her leader has just abandoned her, especially when her, you think, sister just sacrificed herself for Archibald.
Yeah.
And now it is your turn.
Not a cool move, dude. All right. I'm gonna, well, not try the same thing. I'm gonna try a little diplomacy with the elf woman and see if I can't talk her down from attacking. Listen, your leader has abandoned you. Give up now, and we will show mercy.
Okay.
Well, let's see. That's a 21. Modified a 9 plus the 12 is a 21. Which, let me check the reference here, which would have somebody go from hostile to unfriendly.
Okay. What I'm going to rule in this particular case is that's not enough to stop her from attacking you.
Okay.
But it will give her a minus to attack, which is fortunate because she rolled high enough to hit you.
Huh.
She actually rolled an 18, but with her modified -2 puts her at 16, which is below your armor class. And so that moment of doubt was extremely beneficial because it kept her from actually hitting you. And now something happens. Later, what you will discover from the people who saw the fight, and they will say that it was the most amazing hand-to-hand combat that anyone has ever seen.
Oh man.
Is that this? I know you missed the whole thing. In the combat rounds, is this ogre is just pounding the ground, and you see craters in the ground where it has just tried to squash this monk flat, and Taka has been dodging out of the way and has been repeatedly striking the ogre in its right calf. And then finally, in a flurry of blows, Taka strikes the calf repeatedly, and something gives. Something essential gives that it needs to stand, and it falls. And unfortunately, it takes out the structure as it falls.
Oh dear.
Now, Taka and the guard are able to dispatch the ogre shortly afterwards, but that does not stop this structure from collapsing. You are now starting to fall. What would you like to do?
Let's see. What I would really like to do is it kind of like lurching forward at an angle, like the front supports have? Okay.
Yes. The back supports have not been damaged, but the two critical ones, and two in the middle, there are 4 total, and the other 2 are on the outsides, but the 2 in the middle, because of the sheer size of this ogre, have been snapped. The wood just didn't stand a chance.
Okay.
And it's just starting to pitch forward.
Okay. What I'd like to do is try and grab a support beam to not fall forward, and also try and catch the princess so she doesn't fall forward either.
Okay. I would like you to make a dexterity roll.
All right. Tumble, tumble, tumble. Oh gosh, a 2 plus, that's a total of a 4, so that's not going to be good.
Okay, so that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And it's because you were in combat and you were focused on combat and you were trying to be diplomat. You weren't thinking about staying upright, and so you fall forward, and the thing is now in full free fall, and you do see the princess. She is starting to fall past you, and she's screaming. Her long brown hair is just streaming in the wind, and her white dress, special for her birthday and for the occasion, is trailing behind her as she's starting to hurtle towards the paving stones below. And now you have a chance to make another action.
Okay. Scanning list here. As I have it, is not going to cut it. Okay. If she's within arm's length of me, and I hope that she is.
She is still. She's
Okay.
just starting to pass you.
All
but
right.
She's still in arm's length.
I'm going to try and make another grab for her,
Hmm.
and try and grab another, like I said, another support beam as I'm coming toward one to try and stop both of our falls, but mostly hers.
Okay, and I want you to make a dexterity roll for that.
All right,
And
here we
remember,
go.
of course, your if your ravens is better.
Right. Is that a hint, sir? Well, actually, our bonuses are the same, so.
Hmm.
All right, here we go. Let's see. This time it's a 16.
A 16 will do it. You needed a 15 or better to completely succeed, not gloriously succeed,
No.
but to succeed. And what that means is that you are able to grab what essentially ends up being part of the curtain that was used to partially shield her from the sun, and you grasp hold of her other arm. What is Penton's strength?
Oh, not much. Let me jump. 10.
10. Okay, so
Painfully
that
average.
exactly. What that means is you are not able to lift her in any way, shape, or form. But what happens is you are able to stop her fall. By the way, it is wrenching. And I'm going to even say that you grab hold of her with your right hand. Your left hand lets go of your staff and grabs hold of the curtain. And your right shoulder is actually pulled out of socket because of your not extraordinary strength. The pain is extraordinary. But you're able to stop her fall. And there is a moment where every major individual in Beltrain is looking at you, the spell scale sorcerer, dangling from a curtain, and below is the princess, and she looks down for a moment, and then she lets go because she's now only a few inches from the ground. Doop, touches to the ground. And you then cannot hold any longer because you're in a tremendous amount of pain and you fall to the ground. And we'll skip forward a little bit. What happens in the aftermath is of course, it is revealed that Archibald and his group, a few of them were captured, that they had been hired and paid a enormous sum of money, and they were never able to fully determine who was behind this. But it was not Archibald himself. They were hired to assassinate the princess because it was known that only the heir of the king could wield the staff. And currently there is only one of that, and that is the princess. Because of this, and because of your great deeds, you are made court magician, which is one, because of your marvelous deeds, and two, because you work free. You know, the king loves that. King absolutely loves that. You work for free, and you have to understand that the king at his disposal has high level wizards and sorcerers that could annihilate you with a glance. You know, he has incredibly powerful wizards and sorcerers and all kinds of casters that are at his beck and call. But there is only one who saved the princess, and that is Penton. And as you are doing a quick performance for the princess before one of the dinners, your raven lands before you and transforms into a young woman with long, dark hair. And by the way, you realize as you're watching this that this is not some kind of dark revelation, some kind of dark magic. You realize that you've been meditating upon all of this time. You have been sitting on that hill that you went for after encountering the brass dragon. And this is all happening in your memories. And you also realize none of it happened exactly the way that you remembered, particularly that you were able to use spells that you didn't have back then. But it essentially happened that way. And Afiel, as a young woman, walks up to you and she says, Penton, I'm sorry, but I have been keeping you in this meditation longer than you normally would. By the way, she's never spoken to you before, not really. She's able to say a couple of words in common, but you've only had an empathetic link with her before now. And she says, it's essential that you weren't there when your friends went into the shrine of Lolth, because I need you to leave them, and I need you to leave me to die. How do you respond to that?
Well, I prefer that no one die.
Well, I also would prefer not to die. And as she's talking, you see she's wearing a sort of pale, like a gray dress that sort of suggests feathers. And you see a dark stain beginning to spread across her right arm, and it's cocked at an odd angle. And there's no doubt in your mind that Aphil's right wing is broken. By the way, the last time that you had encountered Aphil was, of course, on the battlefield. She was there with you because, of course, she would be. And when you woke in the goblin's cave, she was nowhere to be found. And clearly, she was outside of a mile. But you knew in your heart that she wasn't dead, because you would feel it if she was dead. But you could not contact her. And strangely enough, you know that she's more than a mile away from you now, too. But somehow she's contacting you. And she's saying, if it's okay, would you be willing to save me?
Well, of course. You're my best friend. Why wouldn't I?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. But I really did have to keep you away for just a little while longer, because if I didn't, the staff would have fallen into the hands of a creature that you could not stand against. And even though it might have meant my life, I couldn't let that happen. I'm sure you understand.
Of course.
So here's the thing. This creature is about to walk through a transportation circle. The circle is going to connect to another place across the land. I have very little magic left, but if you go to the pit where you found and encountered the Zorn, and you step into the sands below, I should be able to cause you to rise up at nearly the same moment that it's going down. It's very dangerous. I might fail, and you might die, but it's the only way that you might be able to get to us in time. Will you come for me?
I'll do it.
Thank you. I was really supposed to just tell you goodbye, but I'd kind of like you to save my ass.
I'm not a big fan of goodbyes, so we'll have none of that.
Okay. And with that, you stand up, your very wet butt, because you've been sitting all night on this hill about a quarter of a mile from the Inn of the Last Dragon. And you begin to walk and then run towards the inn and towards the pit. You stand on the sands, and for the first time since the battle, you feel the faintest presence of Aphil, the indescribable link between you and your familiar, and you begin to sink into the sands. As you do, by the way, you feel the presence of something indescribably evil touch your psyche. And you realize that if it had been paying even the slightest bit of attention to you, it would have destroyed you utterly. But it wasn't. And you sink into the sands. And that's where we'll end episode 15. Thank you very much for playing today, Penton. Thank you very much for playing today, James.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Good. Thank you so much. By the way, I want to ask everyone, if you don't mind, go to iTunes and search for Chafing Armor. Go ahead and give us a review. We certainly appreciate 5-star reviews, but any review that you feel is appropriate, we appreciate that so much, and it helps people find the show. And that's all we want to do, is share this silly fun with everybody. So say goodnight, James.
Good night, James.
And we will talk to y'all soon. Dance. Die. Welcome. I'm glad I got you.
Okay, sorry.